Thanks for coming, everybody. This is a nice audience. It's great to see you all here, and if this is the first time, your first time at this event, oh, I thought I was burping. I have these slow burps. If this is the first time at your event, you should know that Robert Creeley himself expected you. His older sister, Helen, told me that when he was 5 years old, he'd march around the kitchen table drumming on a large pot proclaiming the whole town's out for Creeley. The Robert Creeley Foundation's mission is building community through poetry and the arts. Our local community includes Acton Memorial Library, where Robert Creeley learned to read, its diligent staff and ancillary supporters, Acton Boxborough Regional High School, and the extraordinary citizens of Acton itself and the surrounding towns. We have 7 towns that border on Acton and actually pitch into this event. We wouldn't exist without this local support, and of course you, our poetry community. Once again, our grateful thanks to the generous organizations, businesses, and individual families and whose financial donations made this evening possible. They're listed in your program. Please note in your program that the Georgia Whitney Memorial Trust Fund again sets the bar as our gold level contributor. To become a gold level contributor, you must contribute $1,000 or more. We're also reaching out to you who enjoy this annual event, so please help us keep the show on the road in 2015, a benchmark year for us, by dropping a generous donation in the basket on your way out. Your donation is tax deductible, and you may ask for a receipt. We couldn't do this without you and your feelings about our community. As Robert Creeley put it, recorders ages hence will look for us not only in books, one hopes, nor only under rocks, but in some common places of feeling. The Robert Creeley Award may be unique. Our winner selects $500 worth of books for Acton Memorial Library and signs the dated book plates. That's a lovely gift to a community, and it's been going on now for 14 years. So thank you, Mary Ruffel. Mary Ruffel is the fastest ever to compile her list of books for the library. It was easy because she's only read 3,000 books in her life. Robert Creeley lived on Elm Street about a mile up the road. He loved Acton and often wrote and reminisced about his life here. In Tom Clark's Robert Creeley and the Genius of the American Commonplace, and I could not recommend this book more, especially if you want to know about Creeley living in Acton, and there's much more to it than that because it's a thorough book of interviews. It's Robert Creeley and the Genius of the American Commonplace by Tom Clark. He says, I had the sense as a kid that you could walk all the way to Canada through the woods, and there was a lovely way we would go to visit this charming old woman who lived by herself in the classic New England manner. She would give us a glass of milk and molasses cookies. As kids, we would come home from school and literally take off into the woods. In winter, he said, we could skate from West Acton on Teals Brook all the way to South Acton, 4 miles away, sort of jumping over occasional brush. Then we'd come out on this great mill pond in South Acton. Again, that same brook served us as a swimming hole in the summer, and we fished there. Bob Creeley left Acton, went to Harvard, drove an ambulance in India, traveled the world, and eventually built a global reputation as one of the most influential poets of the 20th century. But he never forgot Acton, lacing his poems with reminiscence and deep feeling for this town. We're in Creeley's house tonight. Welcome to it, Mary. As Creeley, Mary Ruffel is a daring and inventive master poet who has published many books of poetry, including her recent Trances of the Blast and her marvelous book of lectures, Madness, Rat, and Honey, which are on sale in the lobby tonight. She'll be happy to sign copies for you. We also have signed broadsides for $30. They're a collaboration by Mary and Jesse Young, an Acton, Boxborough student. You can win a framed broadside for free. It's out there in the lobby. If you haven't already, make sure you fill out your questionnaire, which is in your program. And and put it in the circulating yellow tote bag. Those come later. I'll pick the winner out of the. I'll pick out the winner at the end of the program, right after the question and answer session. So stick around after that, because that's the really most exciting moment when we pick the winner of the broadside. We have a special guest this evening, Penelope Creeley, widow of Robert Creeley and an honorary director of the Robert Creeley Foundation. Would you like to say a few words, Ben?
For me? Wow, look at all of you. It's wonderful. The town is all out for Creeley. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much to Bob. Is this year 14? Year 14. I mean, 14 years of doing this. It's fantastic. And to all of the committee that makes it possible, to all the high school students who participate, and to you, Mary, for being here. Thank you all very much indeed.
Now I'd like to introduce Susan Richmond, who directed this year's Helen Creeley Student Poetry Prize. Susan.
Good evening. I'm one of 3 co-chairs for the Helen Creeley Student Poetry Prize. My other co-chairs, Jean D'Amico and Terry House, are in the audience, and they also worked as tirelessly as myself. And we also want to thank Jeremy Blaustein, who has been dedicated to the Helen Creeley from its very beginning. The Helen Creeley Poetry Prize was established in Helen Creeley's name. Helen Creeley was Robert Creeley's older sister, and she was also a poet in her own right, accomplished, and was a mentor and a role model for young Robert. So we've been doing, this is our 7th annual Helen Creeley Poetry Prize for students, and this year's field of participants included 44 poets from 23 schools across the state of Massachusetts. And it's wonderful. And to just give you an idea of how far the reach of this contest extends, we had among our finalists this year, a young man from Encino, California, who was attending school in Massachusetts, and a young woman who left China 3 years ago to study in the United States because of her passion for American literature. She was a finalist in our contest, and she had only been speaking and writing English for 3 years. It's quite remarkable. In addition to our winner, who I'll announce in a moment, we'd also like to recognize 3 talented runners-up who will read at the high school event tomorrow. We have another event for high school students in the morning. They are Nathaniel Bresnick of Sharon and Milton Academy, Lauren Rizica of Wellesley High School, and Erica Peterson from our own Acton Boxborough Regional High School. Are any of you in the audience? Well, congratulations to all 3 of you. It's now my privilege to introduce a remarkable young woman. If you were at last year's Robert Creeley Award night with Naomi Shihab Nye, you may think the name you are about to hear sounds familiar, and you would be right. This year's winner of the Helen Creeley Student Poetry Prize, Talon Tahajian, is one of only 2 poets ever to win the prize twice. When you hear the rest of Talon's biography, you may feel like you are listening to the introduction of a future Robert Creeley Award winner. And indeed, we believe you might be. Talon Tahajian grew up in Belmont, Massachusetts. Her poetry has been recognized by the Basil Bunting Poetry Awards, Sierra Nevada College, Hollins University, Brigham Young University, the British Fellowship of Postgraduate Medicine, the Boston Globe, National Young Arts Foundation, and the National Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. Her work has appeared or is forthcoming in the journals Pank, Hobart, Washington Square Review, and Out of Sequence, the Sonnets Remixed, to name a few. Talon currently serves as a poetry editor for the Adroit Journal, and she will attend the University of Cambridge in the fall, where she plans to study English. When Talon was notified of her award and learned that she would be opening for Mary Ruefle, she responded, "I am absolutely thrilled and honored, especially because I love Mary Ruefle's work so much." We at the Robert Creeley Foundation are thrilled too, and we know that you will be as well. Please help me welcome this year's Helen Creeley Student Poetry Prize winner, Talon Tahajian. Talon? And because you love Mary Ruefle so much, we're giving you her 2 books, Madness, Rack and Honey, and Trances of the Blast, which are also available for all of you to purchase, but they're for you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much to the Robert Creeley Foundation and everyone here. Again, I'm really thrilled to be here, and I have 2 poems for you tonight, the first of which is about lizards, and it is called Variations on a Mountain Skink. 1. I want to know the smallest things, quiet, contained. This is where we crossed the river, too far to swim back. Think of minnows when you go, swimming miles, used for bait. 2. There were too many lizards on the patio, 99 ways to think about skin. In August, we count 5 species: redback whiptail, desert night, mountain skink, spiny-tailed iguana, Arizona chameleon. We identify with the skink: thin, smooth, carnivorous. 3. Yesterday, I watched a skink die, leaping from the pavement and shivering, rolling to its back, exposing silver underbelly, eyes like black bulbs, unwavering. Its tail was the first to go. Some lizards shed their tails, this one abandoned it. I buried it next to the river in one of your white-stained socks. I like to think of water. My second poem is called Boardwalk November. Rain, a verb that carries weight. Where should we put ourselves? In October, leaning toward Providence, a leak in the faucet, an empty envelope, silver postmark like the nickels we spend on taffy and penny mints at the beach with the baby nurse sharks. I have never taken you to the beach with the baby nurse sharks, but buying taffy at 7 o'clock in the morning will not make it stop raining, and boardwalks aren't meant for October, and November has given us crows. Stale taffy. Everybody knows that. The leaking faucet trips in syllables, and I count them out loud. Every morning I count 7 o'clock crows as they shuffle their wings, eyes like black mints unblinking. A baby nurse shark washed up on the beach, and we pried apart its face to find its eyelids. Sharks do not blink. You were not there when the tide rolled in with the baby nurse shark. I sent you its tooth in an envelope. Thank you. Anthony, who will be speaking about the Broadside Project.
Good evening. As Talon was leaving, she said, "Oh my gosh, Maria." I answer to anything. Good evening, and thank you for being here. I am Maria Anthony, and I'm part of the Robert Creeley Foundation. I want to thank you for coming out tonight and being a part of this. My job tonight is twofold. The first thing I'm going to do is talk briefly about the Broadside Project, and then I will give a brief introduction and bring up Mary Ruffel. For our purposes, a broadside is a marrying of art and poetry. And the slideshow that you saw earlier were images of those broadside images that the students created from Liz Mackay's junior-senior portfolio class. It all starts when Mary Ruffel loans us her poems. Students in English classes then read those poems and contemplate those poems and take their ideas about those poems to the art students in a poster session, and they talk about the poetry, they talk about the images inherent in the poetry, they talk about colors that are suggested so that they can influence the art students. Then the art students, with all of their genius, go and create beautiful artwork, and they are doing it as part of the community here at Acton-Boxborough. So they are armed with this information from the English students, and they go off and they create the art for any piece of poetry that they would like. This year, the foundation narrowed the images to, I think, 5 or 6 images, and we mailed those images to Mary, and she selected the winning broadside. She said that she was torn between so many, and as she watched the slideshow progress, she said, "Oh, I like that one. No, I like that one. No, I like that one." It's very difficult because our art students are so gifted. However, the foundation only produces one, and as Bob Clausen said, it was by Jessie Zhang, and she illustrated Mary's poem, "The Tenor of Your Yes." And so that broadside is on sale. Mary has signed them already, and you can purchase those outside. Bob Creeley often collaborated with artists, and I do believe he would have loved the collaboration that has grown out of this broadside challenge. It has become many students' favorite art project through the year, and I just thank everyone involved, and I have to give a special shout out to Liz Mackay, the art teacher, Nat Martin, who helped compile the images that you saw tonight, and Rich Cloney at Jet Art, who helped capture those images and produce the final broadside. And of course, Mary, we have to thank you for loaning us your beautiful poetry, and for the teachers in the English department who participated. The foundation is forever grateful to all of you who participate. We truly are a community coming together, and it truly is a collaboration of art and poetry. So on to my second job tonight. It's to provide an introduction for Mary Ruffel. In Mary's first book of prose, titled "The Most of It," there was a story in there that she wrote about the joy of reading in bed, something that I can't do because I fall asleep. She does it in the morning,